Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. This story is so weird. When I, 27 female, was 20-year-old, I was in a relationship situation with a guy, now 40 male. It was messy. We were on and off for almost 5 years. He was always clear he wasn't ready for a relationship, and I was always clear I was madly in love with him. Every time I got tired of the situation and wanted to leave, somehow he convinced me to stay because love is free. We have so much time together. He wasn't ready to commit. I asked for advice from my sister, now 42, and she gave me some crappy advice like making him compromise, leaving stuff at his place and basically turning him into a boyfriend until it was too late for him to say no. I never managed to do that because I wanted him to love me as much as I loved him, not trap him. During the last night I spent at his place, he said he wanted to try something more serious with me, talked about some dates he planned, etc. Only to ghost me forever. It was hard. This was the first person I loved and he treated me like crap. 6 months passed and my sister came home. We both lived with our parents, saying she wanted to introduce her brand new boyfriend. She'd have a ton of boyfriends, but she said this was the one. It was a dinner only with my parents at our home, so I was excluded and expected to just go out or chill in my room. The day came, and while they were dining, I ordered a pizza. I came downstairs only to find the guy I was with 6 months prior dining with my parents and sisters. I was shocked, but paid for my pizza and went to my room again to cry. After dinner was over, I confronted my sister in front of our parents and begged her to not be with him. To be loyal to me, her little sister. There was no way she didn't know who he was. I had shown her pictures of him, his social media, where he worked, and she even knew where he lived. They never met because he didn't want to meet my family and never introduced himself. But she knew who he was, and she excluded me from that dinner because she knew. She said they met by chance after we stopped seeing each other. She knew how hard that rupture was. She knew how painful it was to not have even a closure. He just stopped replying. Not even blocking me, just left me there, wondering after 5 years. She knew that during those 6 months I was still hurting. I know how it was my fault. I was too naive and thought that if I stayed long enough, he would be ready for the relationship I wanted and would learn to love me. Stupid, I know. She defended herself, saying it was a coincidence and chemistry was there. She loved him, and she wasn't going to lose the love of her life. This stuff only happens once in a lifetime. When I was in my early 20s, I would believe that. However, now I know that there are 8 billion people in this world. There's no one love of your life. You can find the love of your life multiple times if you look for it. My parents sided with her and said I should get over it since we never have a real relationship. 1.5 years have passed. I've been excluded from multiple family gatherings because he would be around, and my family thinks I will bring negative vibes since I'm still bitter about everything. I have no feelings for him, but I feel betrayed by my sisters and my parents. He is just a pause in my eyes now. My sister is now 6 months pregnant. Due to her age, she's been extremely pampered by my parents. She still lives at home and is going to move with him, maybe 2 months after the baby is born. Then they're going to marry. In my culture, it is normal that if a woman gives birth, moves back, or stays with her mom so the mom will help with the baby for the first months. A week ago, my sister's friends made a surprise baby shower. I happened to be at home. I tried to talk to them. I don't know why, maybe because my sister and I were too close before and I'm sad we're no longer friends. But her friends acted like I wasn't there and only replied to me with, yes, no, or silence as if I was the one that created this mess. Or I was a homewrecker. Or I tried to seduce my sister's man. I was planning to move already. I was saving money, etc. But after that, I left immediately to a friend's house. I'm in the process of finding my own place. 2 days ago, I received a call from my parents asking me to have a talk. I went to their house and they informed me that the diamond earrings my grandma left me will be given to my sisters. Those earrings have been in my family for 4 generations and before my grandma died. She said the earrings will be mine and my sister will receive a gold necklace. Grandma trusted my parents with the earrings. There was no will or anything, she just asked to give it to me when I was mature enough to appreciate care of a family heirloom. Now my parents think since my sister is getting married first and is having grandma's first great-grandchild, my sister should have it. I'm really mad now. They're robbing me and emptying my grandma left to me. I don't think my parents are evil. I think they were too worried my sister wouldn't marry due to her age. Again, in my culture, a single woman in her 40s is something to worry for her family. And now that she's forming a family, they want to reward her with everything. But I was the closest to my grandma. She made it clear the earrings will be mine, not my sister's, not the first one to marry or have a child, but mine. After 2 years of being excluded in favor of my sisters, I gave the ultimatum to my parents they give the earrings to me as my grandma intended, or I will cut them from my life forever. Not going to lie, the idea of cutting my family off is too painful, but I feel they already made me and still makes me so wrong. I don't want them in my life anymore. I feel a little shallow fighting over this, but those are only things my granddad left to them that are not entitled to them. Update. Yes, I got the earrings. After my post, I went to my parents' house, opened the safe, took the earrings, and left. Then after that, I went again, told my parents I need time to process stuff and be my own self, and gave their house's keys. Said I was leaving for good. There were some tears from my mom saying she couldn't believe I was such a bitter person. She raised me better. I was turning my back to my family over nothing, and finally that it was shameful that I would leave the family house without being married or anything. So it was never about me or she loving me or anything but social pressure to keep an outdated tradition. My dad was very neutral, gave me a hug and wished me luck. For 2 months, nothing happened and I barely had contact with my family, found a place to live, tried to heal, had real fun decorating my new home, your normal stuff. And then everything happened at once. For those 2 months, my sister and mom never reached to me. Only my dad sent a text once a week asking how I was and wishing I was doing well. And then my sister's boyfriend, future husband, also my ex, started to follow me on Instagram again. I found it weird, but anyway, after all, he's my sister's boyfriend, father of my niece's future brother-in-law, my ex-few. Then he started to like my stories and replied to them with heart emojis and looking good. This happened 3 times maybe. When I received the voicemail from my mom calling all sorts of names for going after a man that I knew was engaged. This was some kind of revenge over my poor sister, that I was causing her so much stress her blood pressure level was over the moon. I was an inconsiderate femme fatale and she raised me better. Later I learned through a cousin that my sister took her fiancé's cell phone and found several conversations with several women, including his attendants, to talk to me, so of course she went to my mom crying about me trying to steal her fiancé. All messy date. Less than a week later, another voicemail from mom asking me where the F were the earrings. She went looking after them and when she couldn't find them, deduced it was me. She called me a thief, a disgrace, dishonored me and said they didn't consider me family anymore. I was dead to them, and she will be taking legal actions against me for thief if it was possible. I had no option but to block her and my sister and other family members that sided with them. My dad later texted me to let me know my mom went nuts and they won't take any legal action. By the end of last month, my cousin texted me saying my sister had given birth to my niece. I know I shouldn't, but I did it. I went to the hospital with a gift while wearing my beautiful and fancy earring. I was kicked out, of course, but it was worth it. I have no plans to see them ever again. Well, maybe my dad. Also my cousin, big gossiper, that girl. Let me know my sister is getting married in May, so she will have her happy ever after all. But I'm also living my best life. I used to work at a hotel that is part of a very large hotel chain. The management at my hotel, as well as more senior management, was all about nepotism. If you were related to or friends with someone in upper management, then you had some amazing career prospects ahead. We got a new food and beverage manager, who was a golf buddy of the general manager and the executive chef. We'll call him Houston. Houston had previously managed a number of top restaurants in the city, including a Michelin star restaurant. Strangely, though, he seemed to change jobs every 6 to 12 months. We soon found out why. The position he moved into oversaw 3 FUIB departments with around 300 staff all up. Very quickly, we found that, as well as not realizing that we weren't fine dining, Houston was the most horrible pig of a man that I've ever had to work with. He was a very tall, large man who would use his size to physically intimidate other staff and managers. He would shout at anyone for any perceived mistake, real or imagined, that he saw. He was very handsy and often made seedy comments to the attractive young waitresses. Management would often attend events and eat and drink with guests while also making sure nothing went wrong. At one of these events, he got one of the young women in sales so drunk an ambulance had to be called and she had her stomach pumped. He was just a horrible human being. As you can imagine, everyone from kitchen staff to waiters to managers were making complaints about him. I know that one manager had gone over the head of our general manager and was slowly elevating the issue to higher and higher levels of management, heading towards national level. The response that our HR department was sticking to was that Houston had been hired to shake things up. Apparently, they had expected a certain amount of friction to occur and had essentially been told to ignore any complaints that came their way. They had taken things through the proper channels and followed the correct procedure. There was nothing they could do. Their hands were tied. Enter our story's hero. So the bar in this hotel was well run by a short Filipino man. We'll call him Joan. Because there were rarely any real issues at the bar, John had mostly been left alone by Houston. Joan had never seen Houston's bad side come out and never personally had a problem with him. One day, an issue did come up with the bar. It eventually turned out to be a management miscommunication, which was a very common thing. Thanks, management. But that was irrelevant at the time. So Houston decides that the problem is Joan's fault, storms into the bar, and while John is serving and in front of staff, customers, and a supervisor, Houston absolutely lays into Joan, just like he has to every other supervisor and manager in his department already. What the heck happened yesterday? A group complained to me this morning that we hadn't charged their account properly. Sort this out and do your job properly next time. And picture this with a large 6-foot-tall man getting right in the face of a 5-foot-tall Filipino while yelling abuse at absolutely the top of his voice. Houston stormed back to his office. Joan didn't take anyone's nonsense, and he followed Houston back to his office while they shouted at each other in front of even more staff, supervisors, and another manager. Houston obviously didn't back down or apologize because this is how he had operated for the last 6 months without any consequences. Joan went straight up to HR and told them exactly what had happened, and as usual, they told him there was nothing they could do. That seemed like it was going to be the end of it. That night, John went home and got some legal advice from a friend. Following the advice, he typed up an objective account of exactly what had happened and included names of all staff who had witnessed the encounter. This showed how many people there were able to confirm his story. He emailed this to the entire management team, including team leaders, supervisors, and other departments, as well as each person in HR. This eliminated deniability in anyone's account, as well as keeping the whole hotel in the loop of what was going on. The next day, Joan took his written account down to the police station to file charges of workplace assault. He received a document from the police to confirm that he had filed charges. He then sent that document to the same mailing list of management and HR. By the time he arrived at work that afternoon, the GM had started an inquiry into the issue that he had previously been completely unaware of. HR was claiming that they had no idea what had been going on either. This was definitely the first they were hearing of problems with Houston. Over the next few days, everyone in the FeedBB department from team leader up was called into a meeting to discuss their experiences with Houston. At the end of the week, Houston was notified that he was to attend a meeting with the upper management and HR teams the next day. The next day came and Houston went into his office, packed up his things, walked into the meeting, and slammed his note of resignation onto the desk. HR agreed to an immediate termination of his contract, and he walked out of the job that afternoon. After he left my hotel, he got a job at a small, very average Mexican restaurant as a sommelier. He lasted about 3 months there. I work as an account manager for a food distribution company. I have an NDA, so I can't disclose the type of materials or type of project, so that will be relatively vague, but the story is still good. Okay, so we work with a chain account and service all of their locations in our state. This is a relatively small but global chain that is historically very challenging to work with. Management is aggressive, pushy, just not nice. Our company is a tiny, family-owned and operated company full of nice goofballs. We don't take things too seriously, provide great service, and put up with, honestly, way too much from them. We're their contracted distributor. There are a few items in the contract that no one follows and hasn't followed for years. One of those being monthly pricing audits. No one from their corporation had ever asked for it, but we never brought it up because our pricing is not always consistent with the contracted price we are supposed to charge the locations. Reason being, is we're often able to get a product for cheaper elsewhere and also sell to our other accounts outside of this chain. So we're not always compliant, but it's always for the benefit of the customer. Well, our direct contact at the company quit, and the head honcho over there stepped in to take her place. He insisted that we begin sending monthly pricing audits per the contract. Mind you, this guy is just nasty. I've had to drive around to every location in the state to recover a product the locations use less than one case a year of because they wanted to teach us a lesson for running out of something one time. They assign us complaint forms that I have to go into their site and resolve the complaint. It's usually about something stupid. X. You said that you were going to receive a product on this day, but you didn't tell us if you got it yet. Please write out your 5-step action plan and solution to being better partners to us. So anyways, we dragged out the audits for a while, but were unable to avoid it. So we brought up another item in the contract that had been neglected in attempts to be like, if you're going to enforce this, we're going to enforce the whole contract. It stated that if we were carrying an item for this account that moved less than X number of cases a week, that we would be able to charge a storage fee per month that it sat in our warehouse. They said, yes, we need to be following the contract 100s. Well, we found that almost 90s of the products did not move X number of cases a week and were eligible for a storage fee to be added on. The language stated that we were to also charge for the months that it sat in the warehouse that we did not charge storage, which meant that there were items that had a price increase of $30 per case. That's ridiculous, especially for a restaurant in our state. We alerted the company and said, hey, while this would be more money for us, we really don't want to do that to our customers. They said it didn't matter, and we had to follow the contract, and if any stores complained, I was to send them directly to their corporate rep. So the updated contract pricing went into effect, effectively bumping up pricing on their most popular items by about 10s and the storage pricing by about 30 on their lowest moving items, increasing overall pricing by about 25. Stores are livid. It totally sucks for them, and I feel super badly about it, but it's a result of their corporate being a holes. The best part is now I get these complaints about pricing all day long, and I just get to tag their corporate representatives to deal with it instead. I have less work, and we make about 25 more off an account. They wanted us to follow the contract, right? Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. Hey fam, let me drop a wild story on y'all that happened right in my backyard. So, I got this golden ball of fur named Monty, a golden retriever that's more of a teddy bear than a dog. Life's good, until I got to deal with my neighbor Karen, who's basically the Grinch but for dogs. Now Monty's my dude, and he loves doing his thing in the backyard. It's his kingdom, and he runs it like a prop. But this Karen lady, oh man, she's got a personal vendetta against anything with 4 legs. Monty gets too close to her precious yard, and she's out there waving her hands like she's directing traffic, screaming at the poor guy. Anyway, one day I hear Monty yelping like he's auditioning for a doggy opera. I rush out, and there he is, looking all pitiful. And what do I see? This devil in a wig, Karen, standing by her fence with this wicked grin. Monty's limping, and I'm seeing red. I'm like, what the hell, Karen? What did you do? And she hits me with, maybe if you trained your mutt, he'd know to stay away from my castle. I'm about to go Hulk mode on her, but she strolls away, tripping on the devil's garden she planted. Instant karma, right? But no, she's got this twisted satisfaction, telling me it's my fault for not raising Monty to be a canine ninja respecting property line. Fast forward to her trying to strut away, she eats it on her own trap. It's like poetic justice decided to drop by my backyard for a barbecue. She's on the ground, scratching herself up like a cat on a bad trip. So, there I am, with a wounded Monty and a fallen Korean. I send Monty to the vet, and he's got thorn-induced trauma. Karen, on the other hand, is nursing scratches that make her look like she fought a rosebush and lost. Now, I ain't a vengeful soul, but when you mess with my pup, all bets are off. I call the cops, report her for animal cruelty, and throw in a ticket for Monty's vet bills for good measure. The officer on the line is probably thinking, what in the dog-loving drama is this? But hey, Karen deserved it. You don't mess with a man's best friend and get away with it? So, there I am at the police station, filing a report against Karen, feeling like I'm in a crime drama where the victim is a four-legged fuzzball. The officer's typing away, probably wondering if this is some twisted episode of a reality show. A couple of days later, I get a call from the station. Karen got slapped with a fine for being the neighborhood's version of Cruella de Vil. Justice served on a silver platter, right? I roll up to her place not to rub it in, but to let her know you can't mess with Monty and get away with it. She's sitting there nursing her wounds, looking like a defeated Disney villain. You should have thought twice before messing with my dog, I tell her, feeling like a low-budget action hero. She mumbles something about boundaries and property, but I'm not hearing it. I got Monty back, and that's all that matters. I walk away feeling like the hero in my own backyard saga. Now, every time Monty prances around, I make sure to give Karen a little weight. Not to rub it in, but to remind her that dogs rule and trying to harm them leads to thorny situations. The neighborhood might not have a superhero, but it sure had a golden defender in Monty. And Corinne, well, she's the cautionary tale they tell newcomers about why you don't mess with the guy and his dog. Many moons ago, I spent my youth in the Army. I worked in comms and spent some excellent years doing dumb shit with some of the best guys and girls you could ever meet. One of those years of my misspent youth, I was deployed to a hot and sandy location. This length of deployment was unusual for me, as most deployments in the British Army are 6 months. The extra time was due to us being one of the first units deployed, and after supporting the initial deployment, they requested volunteers to remain and support and train some of the relieving units and newly deployed logistics headquarters, HQ. At this stage in my career, I had been lucky enough to jump from deployment to deployment, and I was loving the extra money that gave me, so I happily volunteered to stay. I was tasked with supporting one of the logistics HQs. I'd run that detachment earlier in the deployment, and was happy to return as it was far away from the main HQ and all the bored adults and seniors that the HQ bring. Think sweeping the desert, that kind of thing. Our little detachment was an oasis in a sea of bullcrap. It was just 6 guys and girls with me as the detachment commander. I was a corporal at the time. The isolated nature of our det meant that anyone sent there had to be able to operate independently, be very adaptable and open to improvise to support where required. Our main unit also liked to send us troublemakers, but due to the nature of the det, they could only send us people who could do their role also. So I ended up with all the best and most interesting scum of my unit, and it was amazing. For any Yanks reading, it would have been F4 Mafia paradise. Within weeks, we had a patio and rock garden set up. We had a BBQ pit, shower area, gym. We'd sorted a deal with the local civilian contractors for us to receive beer in exchange for our help in vehicle and generator servicing. The best part was due to us being a comms det. It was restricted entry to our area, so we were free from any surprise visits. Now that I've set out the backstory, I'll get onto the malicious compliance. The HQ we were supporting was regularly rotating its senior non-commissioned officers, SNCO, and officers from the deployment. They'd do the minimum time to qualify for a medal, and they'd get replaced with someone new. It was a crappy practice that eventually got shut down, but not until much later deployments. We were fairly used to this by now, and the only overhead we had is creating new accounts for the seniors. The guys who actually did the work, my peer group in the HQ, stayed the same mostly. This latest rotation saw the old regimental quartermaster sergeant, RQMS, being replaced by a newly promoted RQMS. This new guy was a prick, full of his own self-importance. Hated that we had a little island of bullcrap-free tranquility within his eyesight. I'd see him pacing outside our fence line when he first arrived, unable to comprehend that he wasn't allowed to just walk in. By this point, I had been in this location for about 6 months, and I was thoroughly past the point of giving any F. The RQMS hated that he had to deal with me. A lowly full-screen ASOC of the det and myself and crew of reprobates was out of his chain of command. One day he absolutely lost his crap because we were BB King half a goat and had invited a few of his guys to join us after work for some beers and delicious goat wraps. By this stage, we'd used Hessian to fence off our BBQ and bar area so that we could obscure it from prying eyes. He went off to get some of his unit's regimental police. RPs, these are not real military police, just jobsworths with no real job in a unit, to come and shut us down. I told them to jog on. They weren't getting in my det, and I don't care who sent them. Apparently, the next day he was apoplectic. The guys who worked with him warned us he was determined to bring my debt to heel. His solution was removing our welfare package that we were issued through his department as a favor from his guys for some services that we were providing. It consisted of a small fridge, TV, and British Forces Broadcasting Service TV decoder, BFBS box. The conversation went roughly as thus: RQ, MS, CPL, Tosspot. It appears that there has been a paperwork error, and you have been given one of my welfare packages by mistake. Me: okay, sir. I'd be happy to fill that in. Shall I drop by your office? RQMS. You can drop by my office and bring the package, but you won't be filling in any paperwork cop. You may have wrangled the last RQ, but as far as I'm concerned, you can do one if you think you're getting that welfare package back off me. And if there's anything else that I find that isn't 100 correct paperwork-wise, then I will shut that right down. You may not be mine, and I may not be able to enter your little compound, but I'm going to have you soon. Every resup demand, every transport request better be completed correctly. I'm going to make your lives hell with paperwork and admin. Qui malicious compliance. Me: I'm sorry to hear that, sir. I'm sorry you feel the service that we provide isn't good enough. The old RQMS was very happy with the services that he was getting from us and sent over the spare welfare package as a thank you. Are you sure that it's paperwork that's the issue here? Are you not happy with phones and the internet? RQMS, CPL. I have no complaints regarding the comms. You just need to complete the correct paperwork and have it authorized by me. At this point, it is clear that he is never going to authorize the return of the welfare package and is very smug about it. Me: okay, sir, you're of course correct. Paperwork is essential. RQMS, are you giving me attitude, CPL? Me: not at all, sir. Just agreeing with you. To be clear, you are happy with everything else we provide to the HQ. You just want me to complete the correct paperwork? RQMS, that's correct, CPL. Me: no problem, sir. Happy to oblige. I delivered the welfare package back to his stores. His guys were very apologetic. I told them not to worry. You see, the welfare package was a thank you for all the extra phone lines and terminals that we'd provided for the previous RQMSs. These expanded his and his unit's working capacity. Most importantly, I had run a phone line to the sleeping areas so that he and his lads could call home without using their limited welfare phone cards. I'd also laid some precious unfiltered internet lines, too. Internet to deployed units is very rare, and unfiltered internet is almost unheard of for British units. What I was providing was immense value to lonely squatties, and it was also without paperwork. When I got back to my debt, I flicked a couple of switches, turning off all the paperwork-less connections. I waited for the inevitable. It didn't take long. The first visitor was one of the privates, letting us know that he'd been cut off mid-call back home. I apologized and explained what was going on with the RQMS. He understood, not happy about it, but understood. He went off muttering about throbbers who can't leave well enough alone. The next was one of the RQMS's full screws, who I have a lot of time for. She came around and asked what was going on with comms. She was in the office when I had the conversation with the ERQMS earlier. We had a bit of chat about what a belter he is, and she asked what was going on. I explained that as per the RQMS's request, we are following his example and doing things by the book. And I've turned off all services without the correct paperwork. She looked at me knowingly. So what does that mean? She asked. I explained that the only services that I had been ordered to provide were for the HQ. The rest would have to request them through me and be approved by Division HQ, as per order. I handed her a copy of the request forms to be completed in triplicate, as I didn't have a photocopier and they couldn't send me it by email, as I'd just turned their kit off. She had a bit of a chuckle and went off back to her boss, paperwork in hand. You see, the only orders I had were for the 6 lines and terminal in the HQ. The 30-odd lines I'd laid extra were essentially me being a good bloke and supporting the mission and departments as they grew around the HQ. It was initiative and adaptability on my part. These were all now off, and I had a steady stream of visitors throughout the day wanting to know what was going on. I directed them to all the RQMS who had the request forms. My last visitor was the operations captain. He was a top bloke, a late entry LA officer, had gone through the ranks from private to regimental sergeant major RSM, and was now commissioned as an officer who had spent more than a few nights in our compound with a beer and talking crap with us. He was one of the very first recipients of a private line and internet. He asked me what was going on. He'd been round the houses, so he knew there were shenanigans afoot. I told him the situation. His face dropped. "Leave it with me," is all that he said, and off he went. 30 miles later, the RQMS was back at the entrance to my compound with the welfare package. The ops captain was with him, looming over him as only ARSM, or former RSM in this case, can. Me. "Hello, sir. How can I help?" RQMS. Very sheepishly. "Hello, CPL. There seems to have been an error, and we found your paperwork for the welfare package. So I'm returning it. My apologies." Me. "No need to apologize, sir. Easy mistake to make." RQMS. "So, are we good?" Me. "And the other paperwork moving forward?" RQMS. "There's no need for all that." Looking over his shoulder at the ops captain. "We are after all on the same team." Me. "We are indeed, sir." I look over my shoulder and give one of my guys a nod. "I think you'll find everything is now back to as it was." RQMS. "Excellent. Thank you very much, CPL." And off he went. The ops captain stared daggers at him as he left. He just gave me a nod and confirmed that drinks were still on for the next day, and the toddler went back to his pit. I was never bothered by the RQMS again. So I met my one friend Pamela during college in 2018, and we became instant friends. A year later, I befriended a girl named Jasmine. At the time, Pamela and Jasmine didn't know each other. Years later, I introduced Pamela and Jasmine, and they became instant friends. I have to say that Jasmine is more obsessed with Pamela, and Pamela doesn't show any sign of obsession towards Jasmine. In some ways, I started to feel as if Jasmine preferred Pamela over me, since she always complimented Pamela and told her that she's so beautiful when she rarely compliments me. Jasmine met her boyfriend back in 2022, and it's been horrible ever since. She has told me she thinks he's cheating on her, how emotionally abusive he is towards her, the way he screams at her, and that he encouraged her to not take birth control, and that they have unprotected intimacy. So from what she told me, I never had a liking towards this guy. But they always break up just to get back together, so this guy isn't going anywhere. My friend goes from crying over what he says and does to being so happy in a state of euphoria. It's a constant up and down of emotions. Pamela knew about Jasmine and her relationship problems. Pamela is very brutally honest, and that's part of who she is. She has also expressed dislike towards Pamela's boyfriend, but she's more honest and brutal than I am. Jasmine led Pamela to believe that they broke up in August. When I was hanging out with Pamela a few months back, she mentioned that Jasmine told her that they broke up. I was surprised because the day before Jasmine told me about her Valentine's Day plans with her boyfriend. I said to Pamela, "What do you mean they're still together?" And she explained to me that Jasmine told her they broke up in August. I was completely shocked and confused. I told her they're still together. A few days later, I asked Jasmine why she lied to Pamela. I said to her that Pamela has the impression you and your boyfriend broke up and asked if that happened. She looked completely panicked and said I wasn't ready to tell her the truth. I told her she can't lie to her and leave so much detail out from her, and that if she wants a friendship with her, then she needs to be honest. She didn't say much, but just said that she will tell Pamela when she's ready and that she feels the relationship won't last that long. A while ago, we all went out for dinner to celebrate my birthday. My brother happened to join us, and he knows about my friend's relationship with her boyfriend. I told him about Jasmine lying to Pamela. So he put her on the spot in front of everyone that was there and asked her how her relationship was going. She went quiet and told him that they broke up and that they weren't meant to be. I didn't say anything to stop him, and I feel a bit bad for letting him put her on the spot. It was awkward because I know they are still together. Jasmine's brother, who is also there, knows they are still together. My brother knows they are together, and now my friend Pamela knows she's being lied to. Earlier today, Jasmine and I were discussing plans to see Pamela on Friday. I told her after a lot of debate that I don't feel comfortable being in the middle of her lying to Pamela about her relationship. She said that it's not a lie if it's never brought up to her. I told her that's not the point, because what if one day it comes up? She said she doesn't see the relationship lasting that long, and that's why she didn't tell Pamela. I told her that's bullshit. because he's done so many horrible things to her and she's not getting rid of him. I even said their relationship most likely will outlive my relationship. She went very quiet, and I just told her, look, I'm not lying for you anymore. You need to tell Pamela whenever it comes time, but I can't be caught in the middle of a lie. She didn't say much after that, but I wonder, was I wrong for telling her I'm not covering up for her lies to my other friend? Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.